Alright people, so welcome to Jumbo IAS and welcome to UPSC Prelims Phoenix batch. In this batch, we revise the entire syllabus for UPSC Prelims examination. And that includes both static as well as current affairs. Now, those of you who have already joined this batch, you know this, that in the static portion, we are currently continuing with history, particularly ancient and medieval history. Now, as far as today's targets are concerned, today is day 9 for our preparation as per our timetable. And as far as today's targets are concerned, we'll be focusing on Deccan India in the medieval time period. Okay. Now, Deccan India had many kingdoms, Bahmani kingdoms, then the disintegrated version of Bahmani kingdoms like Bijapur, Golconda, Bidar, Ahmednagar. These were there. And the most important kingdom, the very big, the very prestigious as far as Deccan India's history is concerned, and that was Vijayanagar Empire. So all of this is part of our today's syllabus, today's targets. Now the notes have been provided to you in advance. So I'm hoping, I'm sure that while watching this lecture, you have already gone through the notes. That was your revision number 1. Now, while watching this lecture would be your revision number 2, because we are going to be revising this portion of our daily targets, the Deccan India portion of our history, medieval history, through a set of 30 MCQs. So this is revision number 2, right? You are well versed with the schedule now. All right. So without further ado, without much delay, let's straight away dive into the lecture. So let's begin. So ancient medieval history, day 9, and today's targets are medieval history of Deccan India. Because in the ancient period, well, there were other kingdoms as well. We have studied about them, starting from Satavahanas, right? Now, Deccan India basically involves 2 kingdoms, Bahmani Sultanate and Vijayanagar. Okay, so we'll be focusing majorly on these 2 kingdoms and the disintegrated version of Bahmani Sultanate, okay, which led to 4 new sultanates, which were Ahmednagar, Bidar, Bijapur, Golconda. All right, so let's begin. Question number 1. Consider the following statements with reference to military of Vijayanagar Empire. The military chiefs or warriors held the title of Amar Nayaka. Soldiers were usually paid in cash. High-breed horses were procured from foreign traders of Arabia, Syria, Turkey. Okay. So yes, you know, the Vijayanagar military administration was similar to Delhi Sultanate. Okay. Very similar to Iqtas and Iqtidars. Iqtidars were military commanders who handled Iqtas and maintained troops and all. So in Vijayanagar Empire also, the military commanders were called Amar Nayaka, who maintained troops. They were military generals, military commanders. So yes, this is correct. The soldiers were paid in cash. Yes, it is basically, if your soldiers are paid in cash, this is an example of a flourishing empire. Okay, see, this is there. And yes, well, back then horses were considered very important. Cavalry, apart from infantry, walking soldiers, cavalry was very important. Okay, and cavalry was about horses. So high breed horses were important. And Arabia, Central Asia, Afghanistan was known to have good breed horses. So they were bought by the Vijayanagar rulers from these traders who got horses from these places. So all 3 are correct. Okay, let's move forward. Consider the following statements with reference to Mahmud Gawan. So Mahmud Gawan's administrative reforms were aimed at increasing the control of Sultan over nobles and provinces. His annexations of port of Goa and Dabhol led to further expansion of Bahmani overseas trade with Iran and Iraq. So remember, the Bahmani kingdom was there, Bahmani Sultanate was there, and there were many foreigners who came to Bahmani Sultanate in Deccan and got high posts. One Persian traveler, not traveler, but Persian statesman was Mahmud Gawan. He came to Bahmani Sultanate and rose to power. He became a chief minister there and he was eventually given the title of Peshwa within the Bahmani Sultanate. Okay, he was a Peshwa in Bahmani Sultanate. Please do not confuse it with Marathas. So the prime minister, chief minister, very high post. He had a lot of power and he did undertake reforms, which the noble families of that time did not like. Okay, so his administrative reforms were aimed at increasing the control of Sultan over nobles and provinces. Yes. And he did expand the empire, which brought in a lot of wealth. He did expand the empire to Goa and Dabhol. These were port areas, which led to flourishing international trade with Iran and Iraq, which further made the empire more wealthy. So he has been given a lot of credit for this. So yes, both are correct. Okay, next. Consider the following pairs with reference to the different types of land in ancient and medieval history and their description. So Amaram land was there, Bhandarvad land was there, Manya land was there, Brahmadeya was there. So Amaran land was given to Amar Nayakas. Remember, Amar Nayakas were like Iqtidars. So this land was given to Amar Nayakas to collect revenue from there as part of their salary and maintain troops. So Amarams were not crown village. Okay, crown village were those lands which were basically under the control of the king for their royal household maintenance, their personal wealth. So Amarams were, well, for Amar Nayakas. So this is false. Bhandarvad were crown villages. These were villages, the revenue of which was used for as a personal wealth of the king. Okay, royal household, royal family maintenance, all of that. So Bhandarvad was not tax-free land. Manya was a land, the revenue of which, well, was used to maintain temples, priests, Brahmins. So it was land under heavy taxation. This is also false. But Brahmadeya was land donated to Brahmins. The land revenue from which used to be the personal wealth of those Brahmins to whom these land grants were given. So this is correct. Okay, the answer would be 4 only. Right? Next. Consider the following statements with reference to society of Vijayanagar Empire in medieval Indian history. Regular and periodic fairs took place under the supervision of Pattan Swami. Kudarai Chettis. Chettis in South India, Chettiar, Chettis. Well, it is associated with traders only. So Kudirai Chettis was a local community of horse traders. The king was the supreme judge and the law of the land was based on traditional regulations and customs. Okay. So this part is correct. Under Vijayanagar Empire, regular trade fairs, festivals took place. Okay, under the supervision of Pattan Swami, who used to make sure that all of these events are being conducted under proper rules and regulations of the empire. Chettis were traders and Kudarai Chettis were horse traders. This is absolutely correct. The king was the supreme judge. Yes, the chief justice of Vijayanagar Empire was the king himself. And well, the law of the land, what were the legal rules and regulations? The law of the land was basically, very simply put, customs, caste-based customs, religious customs, traditions, all of that they had legal sanctity. There was no constitution as such, but these customs had legal sanctity. So this is also correct. The answer would come out to be, just a second, yeah, D. Okay, next. With reference to Nayaka system of Vijayanagar Empire, consider the following statements. Nayakas were responsible for expansion of agricultural activities in their area of administration. They were provided with special allocation of income from land and specific cash payments for holding a particular office. Now, this is correct. Within the land given to Nayakas, they were also responsible for expanding agriculture in those lands because the more agriculture would be practiced in those lands, more revenue, land revenue would come. So they were expected to expand agriculture in that Ikta. Not called Ikta or Iqtidars, but you understand the logic. They were provided special allocation of income. No special income was given to them for holding a particular office. This is basically a salary. They were not salary based. They collected land revenue as salary. So this is false. The answer would come out to be, well, A. Okay, next. Consider the following statements. Abdur Razak visited India during the reign of Vijayanagar ruler Devaraya II. Okay, the unique fortification of Vijayanagar Empire not only encircled the city but also its agricultural land and forests. Now, Vijayanagar Empire also hosted many foreign travelers, like there was Ibn Battuta, Al-Biruni, right, during Delhi Sultanate. Similarly, during Vijayanagar Empire, there were many travelers, foreign travelers who came to different parts of the world. They also came to Deccan India, Vijayanagar Empire, and they wrote about Vijayanagar Empire. Their travel accounts provide us a lot of insight into how things were. They are sources of history. Now, at one point of time, there was this Persian traveler called Abdur Razak Samarkandi, okay, who was part of the Persian empire of Timurid dynasty, the Timurids. Okay, so he came to India during the reign of Devaraya II. Absolutely correct. And he wrote a lot about Vijayanagar Empire. In fact, through his accounts, we get to know that generally the king's palace and the king's area was fortified in the capital. But in Vijayanagar, even the surrounding agricultural land was fortified from enemy attacks. Because the thing is that when enemy attacks your area, you fortify yourself, but the enemy then captures the agricultural land and stops the supply of food, lays a siege, right? And waits. When you starve, you come out, they fight a war and they defeat you, right? So to prevent enemies from laying siege to their capital city, even the agricultural land was fortified. This about Vijayanagar Empire, well, comes to us through the travel accounts of Abdul Razak Samarkandi. So this is correct, okay? So both are correct. Sorry. The unique fortification of Vijayanagar Empire not only encircled the city but also its agricultural land and forest. Well, incorrect. They have asked incorrect. So none of them are incorrect. The answer would not be C, it would be D. Okay, this correct, incorrect is a big hassle. Be careful about this. Next. Consider the following statements with reference to taxation and revenue system of Vijayanagar Empire in the medieval Indian history. Vijayanagar rulers levied taxes according to the relative fertility of the lands. Though the principal source of revenue was land tax, there was no tax on marriage. Officers of Vijayanagar Empire were harsh in tax collection, which led to people to rise in revolt. Dasvand or Kattu Kodaj was a share in the increased productivity of land. Okay, now look, Vijayanagar Empire, well, based on the fertility of land, they used to levy taxes, absolutely correct. And the tax was not just the land tax, taxes on marriage was there, trade, crafts, everything was there. So this is false. Officers of the Vijayanagar Empire, as per some accounts, were harsh in some areas, okay, which led to frequent peasant revolts. This is correct. Dasvand or Katu Kodaj system, what was that system? Well, if you are the kind of person who is going to make some investments on a land, okay, so let's suppose you took a piece of land from the king and you said that you are going to make some investments in irrigation so that land productivity increases. Well, that land would be given to you with very little land tax or land revenue requirements. This was known as Dasvanda or Katukodaj system to increase the productivity of land. So this is correct. The answer would come out to be 1, 3 and 4. Okay, next. Which of the following factors were responsible for the disintegration of Bahmani kingdom? Bahmani Sultanate disintegrated at one point of time. Strife among Dakhanis and Afaki nobles. Timur's attack in 1398 weakened the central authority. Rise of Portuguese power in the Deccan. Now, strife among Deccanis. So in the Bahmani Sultanate, the nobles, some noble families were from the local locals, Dakhanis they were called, and some were foreigners, Persians, Turks. Okay, so there was this competition among the local versus foreign, and this led to, well, frequent civil war-like situations or conflicts. This is correct. Now, Timur did attack India in 1398, but he attacked Delhi Sultanate. Okay, the Tughlaqs were in power back then. So he attacked Delhi Sultanate, had no effect on Bahmani authority. So this is false. And Portuguese power's rise in Deccan, well, affected Vijayanagar, not Dakhan or Bahmani Sultanate. Okay, Vijayanagar Empire was affected because of Portuguese expansion, not the Bahmani. So this is also false. The answer would come out to be B. Okay, next. Consider the following statements with reference to the architecture of Vijayanagar Empire. Chief characteristics of Vijayanagar architecture was the construction of tall Raya Gopurams. Kalyana Mandapas with carved pillars were present in the temple premises. Horse was the most common motif found on the pillar of architecture. Now, as far as the temple architecture of Vijayanagar Empire is concerned, well, the gateway to those temples were these Gopurams. Raya Gopurams were those gateways from which only the royal family people could enter. Those were gates for the entry of royal family only, and they were really tall, taller than others. So this is correct. Now, within the temple complex, there were these halls, pillared halls for gathering of general public. They were called Kalyana Mandapas. This is also correct, and they were carved pillars within the temple premise. And the most common symbol on the temple walls and pillars, carvings, were that of horse. This is also correct. So all three are correct. Okay, next.